You mentioned the old games problem. Could you explain the old games problem for the developer here, like if you're speaking to them?
Yes. So what we normally refer to, and there's different ways to call it, is that a lot of players out there are still playing games which came out 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago. Skyrim, right? People still play Skyrim. I finished it, I don't know, when I was young, if you know what I mean. And not only do players stick with those games, sometimes for a very long time, but even players who are, let's say, the next wave, young, go buy Skyrim. I get it, right? They also want to dive into and experience masterpieces. As a hardcore gamer myself, I played thousands of games in my life, and I still play more than 100 games per year, right?
Wow.
So I get it, right? I get it that you also want to go in there, but it's a problem for all the new kids on the block, and of course, if you do new games. Because I think at the moment it's between 6 and 7% on the revenue on Steam is put into new games. That's crazy.
You say 6 to 7 or 60?
6 to 7%.
Oh, that's bad. That's not a lot.
And on the kind of new games, and I think you have to exclude. That's not true. Sorry, I have to correct myself. Obviously, a Black Wukong was big, but so there's a few of those. Then there's the old, and then there's kind of, if you are an indie developer and you do your thing, that's the share you are fighting kind of against, right? Because unfortunately, for the longest time when the market was growing, every developer was like, the other developer is not my competition, they're my friends, right? They're crazy as I am to make games. Now with this kind of stagnant market, we are getting more and more competition, which is not something I like emotionally, but it's unfortunately also one of those truths, right?
So with this old games problem, what mistakes are people making? And they're not taking into account the fact that this problems exist. Like, what can we practically do about the fact that this is the state?
One of the most obvious mistakes people do is, and I see this nearly every day, is that they do pitches for new games and they benchmark it with those behemoths. And then they kind of say, this budget for this game makes sense and so on, where I'm like, dude, you take the most successful games in the genre and that's your benchmark. If I'm a responsible financier, I will never give you money. You can't take the outliers, right? We can't all become the big boys and the big girls in the market. That's impossible. So that's the first thing I think people need to understand. So either if you only have that data because other data is not available to you, then discount it, deduct 50%, whatever, right? But ideally, you go through the process of doing the market research, and there's tons of tools out there, most of them free, or maximum you have to subscribe. A couple of them you pay $10 per month, whatever. Everybody should be able to afford this, right? And then you not go only to the outliers, but you go to the average in the market. I think that's one thing. The other one is be very careful with these kind of hype things, right? This is a couple of years ago. Even on PC, on Steam, we have to do free-to-play games and all this. But how many big free-to-play games will a player play? Are you playing 5, free-to-play multiplayer shooters? Probably not, right?
Probably one.
You will check them out, all of them, right? Because you do have FOMO, right? If we think back of MMO RPGs, when we played I started with Ultima Online, but when everybody kind of was playing World of Warcraft, sure, we checked out new MMOs for a month, right? Back in the days, the first month was free. We come back, right?
There's a saying for RuneScape where you never quit RuneScape, you only take a break. And that has been the case for me. Like, I probably played that game in over like 10 years now, but like I probably had a 2-year sprint, 3 years later again. But if I think back, how many MMOs have I played? I think I tried Warframe for 3 days, and then I just get the guilt. It's like, yeah, but I could play the game I've invested hundreds of hours in. I'll probably
Yeah,
go for that.
your friends, right? People might recognize your character, whatever, right? This is to a degree you could say it's kind of sunk cost fallacy, right? And you put so much in there already, so you stay. But obviously, with games, it's also a very big emotional factor, as you just said, right? If you grew up with RuneScape, that's the thing, right? I didn't, so why would I check out Rune? I played it. I don't know. I don't even remember for half an hour, and it was like, I'm out, right? Now I have a better idea what it is, but I already had other fascinating, to not call addictive games where I wanted to dive in.